Hello, everyone. I had promised that I would share pieces of the Silicon Valley presentation with all of you. It was a long presentation, but I will kind of create like 4 to 5 parts and kind of share that out so that you guys can see it as well. The first part of the presentation was basically everybody in the room made a flow. At the time, the room was about 70% of people who had never created a flow before. So we all just did it together, and we did it from a business scenario where we have construction photos. And what the scenario was is that imagine that somebody's building something. And whenever somebody's building something, they have to take pictures all along the way, kind of pre-production pictures. What did it look like before we started? Here's the excavation, and here's some other things that we did. And then they end up with these aerial photos of the finished, beautiful thing that they built, unless it's underground, in which case, the last photo might be the closing of the ground or the backfilling of the land. In any event, people have to be out there taking those photos. And I noticed that more and more people are actually just using their phones because they have great photo taking capabilities. And so we figured, could we create a simple way to get the photos up onto SharePoint where we could perhaps process them for an image gallery or process them for some other reason? So I wanted to just keep it very simple, and we decided to build an app in Flow. So we didn't need Power Apps for this one, but part 2, 3, and 4 will have Power Apps in it. So in this first section, we're going to just start with a template. And so everybody in the room used the template, and I'll show you that template. I extended that to show you where you could go. So the reason why you're looking at this constructions photos photo library, and by the way, this happens to be a photo library, so it's not a document library, it's actually, the old-fashioned photo library. And what I've done in that library is I have added a few fields. So I added a contractor ref, and this is so that they could tag each photo based on which contractor zone they were in. So in most construction projects, there's many contractors. So whatever zone they're working in, or whatever contractors related to what they're taking a picture of, they would tell you that. The other thing that they would do is they would put in the comments what the reason for this photo is, kind of like a way of grouping our photos. And so that was another thing that was in there. I'm trying to think of what else did I have in there. I think that was it. Let's look at one of the existing photos to see if I forgot anything. So there's a little bit of prep in order to get your library together for this. So let me just open up this photo. Let's look at the details. So hold on, I want to look at the details of the photo actually. Let's look at this one. And then we'll look over here and look at the details. Where are the details? Okay, so you can see when you look at the details over here, the comments has environmental audit. The contractor is the contractor name. And the title is like the reason what is this photo about? Okay. So I didn't bother putting any drop downs in the library, just kept that library single line of text, but I did have drop downs in my Flow app. Okay. So let's get started building our Flow app. So we're just going to go to Flow. And we're going to start with looking at what template we used in the room. And the reason why we actually used a template in the room is because not everybody had their SharePoint sites there that they could revise. And so using the template was a quick way for everybody to make a Flow app without having to have a SharePoint metadata set up, the extra columns. Okay, so let's just look at new create from template. And then because we're uploading because we're uploading photos, you can just type that here, upload photo. It's very interesting that the search works really well. If you just type what you want to do, it's likely it'll come up in the templates. You don't have to know in advance where would that be. And so you can see that there are a few choices here for buttons, and that's what we're going to use on our phone. They made the app on their phone, so you can try this as well. So I actually let them pick, do you want the photo to be in OneDrive? Do you want it to be in SharePoint? Or do you want it to be in Dropbox? Whatever you want. If you want it to be in Google Drive, I'm not going to hate you either. So whatever you want. And so I chose SharePoint, but they could choose whatever they want. And so basically from their phones, they picked this template. And you can pick the template from your phone without a problem. And the UI for the phone is really easy to use. I was so impressed at how quickly I could build like a flow app. So I'm going to change this title to upload photo video. And you'll notice that the trigger is already set up. Nothing really to do here. What it needs from you is the address of your site. And it actually looks at you and recognizes what site you have access to so that you can pick it. And then you need to pick the path. Now, I don't have any folders in this particular library, but I chose to use the construction photos library. That's the one that I had set up like with the extra columns, right? So that's all they had to do. They pressed save. And then after they press save, I had them click on manage your flow, and they all tried the flow in their room. So it enabled them to kind of pull a photo out of their photo library and or take a picture and then pull the photo out of their photo library and test their flow. Across the room, not a single person was unable to do this, and everybody had at least their first flow built. But I want to show you how I extended it. Okay, so when you hit edit here, again, this is something you can do directly on your phone. I didn't like image content, no offense to anybody who decided those words. So I just put the word photo. Then I added some more inputs. Like, for instance, I can add here reason. Well, I don't want to add reason. Actually, I'm going to just add the word title because that's going to go in the title field on SharePoint. Then I'm going to add the next thing, which is basically this is the purpose field, purpose. And what I did for you here is I actually created a slide in PowerPoint so you could see all of these, exactly what I did, right? So I actually called it business reason. You can see, and I'll share this slide with you guys so you can see it. I'm a little bit out of order here. So let's make this subject so it's the same as my deck, right? This is business reason. I don't put any spaces just because it's a habit with SharePoint. All right, business reason here. I want to give them choices because I don't want them to type anything they want, right? So you can just hit these three dots and set up a drop-down list, right? So what business reasons do I have there? I have pre-construction photos, general progress, right-of-way acquisition, utility permit record, environmental audit, and post-construction photos, okay? So you can make it anything you want. This is what controls how your photos will be tagged on SharePoint. So just for the sake of this short video, I'm gonna do pre-construction photos, general progress, and post-construction photos, right? Of course, you can do anything you want. You can do incident, endangered species sighting, or if you're in a whole different scenario, you know, this could be any number of things, but you want to classify them so that back on SharePoint, you can use those classifications in your apps and in your solutions, right? Okay, so now that I have that, the other thing I wanted to put, and I probably should have put it beforehand, is the contractor name. So contractor name, and on this site, I actually do have a bunch of contractors. I have contractor A, B, C, and D. So that's what I'm going to put here. And this will enable me to associate photos. Sorry, I meant to run over here and do drop down. Right? Please enter the contractor. Please select the contractor name. Okay, and then this is A, B, C, and D. And basically, I'm hitting tab between them. Enter will make a new line, but if you hit tab, it'll go to the next choice. And then what am I forgetting? That's it, okay? So I have 4 basic fields that when they click the button, this is what they're gonna be asked first, okay? This enables me to collect from the end user metadata that I can go push into my SharePoint site, right? So just going back there for a second, if I do a list view here, now in an app, I could actually use a filter that's just show me all the pre-construction photos. That'll be like a part 2, right? Show me all the photos that are general progress, you know, so it'll be very easy for me to do that. And okay, so now let's go back to our flow. And we have this create file. I want to leave that there, but because I want to update the properties of this file, I'm going to add another step, okay? So I'm going to close this step, and then I'm going to add another step. And this is going to be my properties step, right? Where I can change the properties of the file that I just made. So I can update file properties, choose the site, which is planning, choose the library, which is the construction photos, and then choose the ID. Well, the ID is what we got from creating the file. So we'll take that item ID right there so that we have an ID. Now, everything in here that is shown are the columns in the list that I can edit. So what I decided to do is I can use from my trigger, the first thing here, the manually trigger a flow. I'm going to click see more so I can see all the things that I get. It's quite a bit of stuff. So you never have to ask a person like location, because all the location information in there, the date and time information is in there. The user's email is in there, username. So you never have to ask that stuff. But what I'm going to do is the title I'm going to use for this, I'm going to use the subject that I asked them for in the title. I'm going to use the contractor that I asked them for in the contract name. I'm going to use the reason in the comments. So business reason. And that's it. So I'm basically filling out the tags I want to be in the library. So now I can say save, right? Let's test it. Okay, so I'll perform the trigger action. And this is so much more fun on the phone. I really love doing this on the phone. It's much more fun. And it's kind of cool to see that you can create kind of like what I call a flow app right on your phone. You can build it on your phone, which I think is so cool. All right, so I'm going to find my design folder that has photos in it. And then I'm going to pick a picture. Really doesn't matter what picture. You know how nitpicky I can be, right? So I'll just take this picture. And then it wants me to put a subject. New installation. I'm just going to call it that. The business reason, notice I get my little drop down. And I'm going to just call this general progress. So now I've basically filled out those. There's one more. This is the contractor name. And now as soon as I pick all the ones that are needed, and you can change whether they're required or not by clicking in the 3 dots when you make these, I can just run the flow. Okay. I love that the button in flow automatically stays gray if it's not a required, if a required field has not been filled out. So that is like automatically built in for you, right? So you don't have to worry about setting up any kind of data validation. As long as this is a required field up here, you know, and I'll just move it back. You see that we ran beautifully. You can see the JSON here of the results of creating the file. You can see the output for the metadata that we added to SharePoint. If I hit edit here, I just want to point out here, this is where you can decide whether a field is required or optional, right? So if it's required, right? If it's required, then that button will not light up until all the required fields are filled out. Then you'll be able to run the flow. So I kind of like that. Especially when I'm testing, it helps me remember also what's required and what's not. Let's go look at SharePoint to see if the picture landed there. So I'm just going to put it in tile view. And let's see, maybe I'll refresh as well. It would be good if I remembered what that photo looked like, right? And there it is. Okay, if I click on it here and then look at the details, you'll see that it has been tagged with a new installation subject, contractor B, and general progress. And so this kind of thing is really helpful for, you know, getting things online, but also getting them properly tagged in just a couple of steps. So we'll talk to you more in part 2, 3, and 4. I just want to keep these short snippets from Silicon Valley, you know, something that you could try. Let me know if you have questions, and I'll be talking to you soon.